Is billions of dollars in debt. The pandemic that's idled its global fleet of vehicles was the last straw. A century-old car rental company made it official today. It's filing for bankruptcy protection. Hertz. Hertz employs some 38,000 people. So far, 12,000 have already lost their jobs.
What if you could buy a Tesla for less than the price of your monthly rent? Sounds like clickbait, doesn't it? But this isn't a scam or a marketing gimmick. It's the surreal reality playing out across America right now. Hertz, one of the world's most recognized car rental giants, is offloading its fleet at prices that seem too good to be true. Barely used electric vehicles, some less than a year old, are being sold for pennies on the dollar. We're talking about Teslas that originally cost over $45,000, now being listed for under $2,000. Luxury SUVs are being priced lower than your average compact car. It looks like a buyer's dream. But beneath the surface lies a nightmare that few are prepared for. The collapse of Hertz is one of the most shocking stories in the modern automotive era. This isn't just a bankruptcy, it's a full-scale market disruption with ripple effects across the car rental industry, the used vehicle market, and even local communities. Thousands of cars are being liquidated, and the fire sale prices have triggered a frenzy among consumers looking for a deal. But for every buyer who walks away with what appears to be a steal, there's another who ends up facing unexpected repair bills, financing traps, or vehicles plagued by hidden problems. The bigger question is, how did it come to this? Real quick, if you're into videos that cut through the noise and break things down clearly, go ahead and hit that like button. It helps more people find this. And if you're not subscribed yet, now's a good time. We've got more deep dives coming your way. Also, drop a comment and let me know what you think. I'd love to hear your take. Now on to the video. To understand Hertz's downfall, we have to rewind just a few years. In 2020, the company filed for bankruptcy after COVID-19 grounded the global travel industry. Car rentals tanked, revenue collapsed, and Hertz was on the ropes. But by 2021, with new leadership and fresh capital, the company reemerged with a bold vision. Determined to modernize their aging fleet and position themselves as an environmentally forward-thinking brand, Hertz announced a jaw-dropping plan. It would purchase 100,000 Teslas and become the first major rental firm to go all in on electric vehicles. At the time, it was hailed as a masterstroke. Wall Street cheered. The media praised the move as futuristic and progressive. Tesla's stock jumped. It looked like Hertz was on the cutting edge of a green revolution. But in the rental world, innovation doesn't always translate into practicality, and that's where things started to unravel. The plan quickly hit a wall. Renters weren't lining up to drive EVs. Many were unfamiliar with how to charge them, especially during short trips or in cities without reliable infrastructure. Customers complained. Cars sat idle. And worst of all, maintenance costs started piling up. Unlike traditional gasoline vehicles, EVs require specialized care. A single battery mishap or a minor accident could lead to service nightmares and astronomical repair bills. Then, in early 2023, the fatal blow landed. Tesla slashed the prices of its new models. Virtually overnight, the vehicles Hertz had paid top dollar for were worth tens of millions less on the open market. Cornered by debt, devaluation, and a failed strategy, Hertz had only one option left: liquidate, and fast. Now, the fallout is playing out in real time. Car buyers are flocking to Hertz locations and online listings in droves, hoping to score the deal of the decade. But experts warn many of these bargains come with baggage, unseen mechanical issues, financing traps, and insurance markups that can turn a dream purchase into a financial nightmare. And it's not just consumers feeling the impact. Entire communities are suffering as Hertz shutters branches, lays off workers, and leaves economic voids in towns that once depended on its presence. This video dives deep into the untold story of Hertz's rise, fall, and the massive ripple effects now transforming the rental and automotive landscape. We'll reveal the critical missteps that turned a bold vision into a billion-dollar disaster. You'll hear about the hidden risks of buying an ex-Hertz car, the financing pitfalls that could cost unsuspecting buyers thousands, and the devastating consequences for workers and local economies. We'll also spotlight the unexpected winners, those who are capitalizing on the chaos and turning Hertz's loss into their own gain. Is this the end of the electric vehicle dream for car rental giants, or just the beginning of a new, more cautious era? One thing's for sure, what happened at Hertz is more than a corporate blunder. It's a cautionary tale for an entire industry, and it's far from over. In 2021, as Hertz emerged from bankruptcy, it was desperate for a turnaround story, something bold enough to signal its rebirth and regain consumer trust. That's when the company made what it believed was a genius move, ordering 100,000 Teslas in one of the largest electric vehicle purchases in history. The announcement was splashy. Media outlets dubbed it a new era for car rentals. Investors briefly regained confidence, and Hertz marketed itself as the first rental company ready to lead the EV revolution. The rationale seemed simple: modernize the fleet, capitalize on the electric vehicle boom, and cater to the growing demographic of environmentally conscious consumers. On paper, it looked brilliant. Electric vehicles were trending. Tesla had just become a trillion-dollar company. Hertz saw an opportunity to ride that wave and gain a competitive edge over traditional rental rivals. But underneath the headlines and marketing buzz, there was a glaring problem. The decision wasn't based on consumer behavior. It was based on speculation. Instead of first testing the waters with a smaller EV pilot program, Hertz dove in headfirst. The company didn't stop to ask one critical question: do rental customers actually want to drive EVs? And more importantly, are they ready for them? The answer turned out to be a resounding no. Most people who rent cars, especially for business trips, vacations, or quick errands, want simplicity. They want to fill up, drive, and go. EVs, particularly Teslas, introduced an unexpected learning curve. Where do you charge? How long does it take? What if the battery runs low in an unfamiliar city? Many renters weren't just uninterested. They were actively avoiding the electric options. One striking example of this disconnect came from a major Hertz rental hub, where a Chevy Silverado EV, barely a year old, accumulated just 808 miles over its entire service life. That's less than what many commuters drive in a single month. This wasn't an outlier, it was a trend. Customers were skipping over Teslas and EVs, opting instead for traditional gas-powered cars, even if they were older or less flashy. The company had made a massive bet on a product its customers didn't ask for, but that was only half the problem. Hertz also failed to negotiate meaningful discounts on its bulk purchase. While large fleet buyers typically receive reduced rates, reports later surfaced that Hertz paid close to retail prices for many of its Teslas. With no significant cost advantage, their already expensive cars became a risky financial asset, especially when used as rentals subject to wear and tear. The scale of the mistake became clear when depreciation hit. Electric vehicles, unlike traditional cars, lose value quickly if market prices shift, and Hertz was about to learn just how fast things could go wrong. The company had taken a gamble, hoping to turn a new chapter with a bold, headline-grabbing fleet transformation. Instead, it found itself stuck with underused, overpriced, rapidly depreciating assets. It had placed its future in the hands of a single automaker, and as we'll see in the next section, that decision would come back to haunt them. As Hertz's EV fleet rolled out across the country, another problem surfaced. One that would prove just as damaging as the lack of customer demand: maintenance. Electric vehicles aren't just different in how they drive. They're fundamentally different in how they're serviced, repaired, and even operated day to day. And that's where the second critical error emerged. While Teslas and other EVs may appear sleek and cutting edge, they're also notoriously complex. Their unique components, battery packs, electric motors, regenerative braking systems, and software-heavy interfaces require specialized knowledge to maintain. Unfortunately, the average renter wasn't just unfamiliar with these systems. They were often careless. Charging was a common issue. Many renters didn't know how to properly plug in or top off a Tesla. Some returned the vehicles with depleted batteries. Others left them sitting idle, unknowingly letting the charge drain entirely. This led to more service calls, more downtime, and increased operational costs. Hertz found itself stuck in a loop, renters damaging cars unintentionally, and the company spending more and more just to keep them road ready. But it wasn't just user error. Even minor accidents became logistical nightmares. A simple fender bender in a Tesla isn't like a gas car repair. In one instance, a Model 3 that had sustained cosmetic damage was out of commission for months. Why? Tesla's repair parts aren't readily available at most body shops. Components often have to be ordered directly from Tesla's manufacturing facilities, and service appointments, especially for fleet vehicles, can take weeks. That delay costs money. A car sitting idle is a car not generating revenue. And when you've got tens of thousands of EVs in circulation, those idle days add up quickly. Then there's the software side of things. Teslas rely on over-the-air updates, diagnostics, and system integrations that are very different from traditional vehicles. If something glitches, even temporarily, it may require syncing with Tesla's own support infrastructure, something rental companies can't always do quickly or affordably. On top of all that, many repair shops weren't equipped or certified to handle electric vehicles, especially in smaller cities or remote locations. That meant Hertz often had to tow cars long distances or wait for specific technicians, further slowing turnaround time. And when a company's entire value proposition is based on efficiency, quick turnarounds, car availability, minimal downtime, this kind of delay becomes a silent killer. All of this made the EV fleet more than just a poor match for the average customer. It became a financial sinkhole. Vehicles that should have been rented out daily were stuck in service queues. Costs for repairs skyrocketed. And once again, Tesla's lack of fleet support exposed a harsh truth. These cars were never designed to be the backbone of a rental empire. This was the second wave of Hertz's crisis. Not just low demand, but high maintenance. The company was hemorrhaging cash, just trying to keep its flashy new investment functioning. But the real storm was still ahead. Because in early 2023, Tesla made a decision that would cause the floor to fall out entirely from under Hertz's already crumbling plan. In January 2023, Tesla did something unprecedented. Facing pressure from global competition and slowing consumer demand, the company made a bold, and for many, shocking move. It slashed the prices of its best-selling models across the board. The Model 3 and Model Y saw reductions of up to 20%, effectively making them thousands of dollars cheaper overnight. For prospective buyers, it was a welcome discount. For Tesla's investors, it was a calculated risk to boost sales and regain momentum. But for Hertz, it was catastrophic. Why? Because the vehicles it had paid up to $60,000 for were suddenly worth far less on the open market, some as low as $40,000 new. That meant every single EV on Hertz's lot was now massively devalued. And for a company that had invested billions in electric vehicles, that wasn't just a markdown, it was a financial crisis. Depreciation is a reality in the car business. But this wasn't normal. This was like buying a brand new house, only to have its market value drop by 30% the next week. The blow to Hertz's balance sheet was immediate and brutal. They now held assets that were rapidly losing value and had no easy path to profitability. To make matters worse, the price cuts coincided with rising interest rates, slowing consumer spending, and a general softening in the used car market. Suddenly, the resale value of every EV in Hertz's fleet was in free fall. And that spelled disaster for a company already struggling to recover from its earlier missteps. Faced with mounting losses and little choice, Hertz was forced to act fast. It launched one of the largest vehicle liquidation efforts in car rental history, slashing prices on thousands of cars to get them off the books. Teslas, Silverados, even reliable Toyota RAV4s were now being offered at prices that turned heads, some with discounts of $30,000 or more. The fire sale had begun, and with it, Hertz hoped to recoup at least a fraction of its investment. But in doing so, it triggered a new kind of chaos, flooding the market with underpriced vehicles and upending the entire pricing structure of used cars across the country. In the next section, we'll look at the frenzy this sparked, how buyers across the nation rushed to scoop up deals that seemed too good to be true, and how in some cases they were. As news of Hertz's massive liquidation hit the internet, It didn't take long for the public to react. Social media lit up with screenshots of Tesla Model 3s selling for as low as $1,913, and Silverado EVs listed tens of thousands below sticker price. It was chaos. An automotive Black Friday happening every single day, and Hertz couldn't offload cars fast enough. Buyers were lining up, both literally and figuratively. Online forums buzzed with hot tips about which Hertz locations had the best inventory. TikTok and YouTube creators published videos with headlines like, "How I Got a Tesla for Less Than 2K." Some even live streamed their purchase journeys, drawing massive audiences. On the ground, customers flocked to Hertz lots nationwide, hoping to strike gold before the inventory vanished. It wasn't just Teslas and EVs catching attention. Mid-range family favorites like the Toyota RAV4, Mazda CX-5, and Honda Accord were being offered at jaw-dropping discounts. The RAV4, typically a $29,000 vehicle, was going for $23,000 or even less at some locations. Honda Accords, known for their resale value and reliability, were being listed at thousands below Kelley Blue Book estimates. Buyers who had previously been priced out of the car market were now presented with what looked like the deal of a lifetime. And in many ways, it was. With inflation squeezing household budgets and interest rates rising, a fire sale on low-mileage, late-model vehicles was exactly what consumers were hungry for. This wasn't a dealership stunt. It was a real liquidation, and the prices weren't gimmicks. The vehicles were there, the discounts were real, and the urgency was palpable. But behind the euphoria of deep discounts, a storm was brewing. Because when you scratch beneath the surface, you find the real reason prices were falling so fast. And it wasn't generosity, it was desperation. Hertz wasn't just trying to clean up its balance sheet, it was hemorrhaging money. The EV fleet had become a financial anchor, dragging down the entire business. Tesla's price cuts had torpedoed the value of their assets. Every day those cars sat unsold, their value continued to drop. The solution? Offload them quickly, even at a loss. The timing couldn't have been worse or better, depending on your perspective. For consumers, the fire sale offered a once-in-a-generation opportunity to buy high-end vehicles for bargain bin prices. For the used car market, however, it was a disruptive force. Dealers across the country suddenly found their own inventories harder to move. Who would pay full price for a used Honda when they could get the same model, slightly newer, for thousands less from Hertz? That ripple extended to banks and credit unions as well. Lenders saw values crashing, which impacted how much they were willing to finance. Buyers who thought they had secured great deals found themselves stuck with financing shortfalls when their lenders reevaluated the collateral. In some cases, people had to walk away from vehicles because the loan no longer matched the market value. Still, for many, the rewards outweighed the risks. Car buyers hungry for value swarmed the listings, ready to act fast and ask questions later. It was the ultimate test of you snooze, you lose. And while some walked away smiling, others would soon discover that these deals came with strings attached, hidden flaws, costly repairs, and financial traps that lurked beneath the shiny exterior. In the next section, we'll pull back the curtain on what Hertz didn't advertise, why some of these bargains were anything but, and how hidden issues turned dream deals into expensive mistakes. Behind the flashy ads, dramatic markdowns, and viral headlines lies a darker side to Hertz's liquidation, one that many buyers never saw coming. While a $2,000 Tesla might sound like a dream come true, experts and early buyers are sounding the alarm. Some of these cars aren't just discounted, they're damaged goods. Rental vehicles live hard lives. Unlike personal cars, they're driven by hundreds of different people, many of whom treat the vehicle with little care or attention. And Hertz's fleet, once brimming with cutting-edge EVs, was no exception. These weren't showroom Teslas, they were workhorses, passed from hand to hand, often over short, stressful trips. And that kind of usage leaves a mark. One of the most common issues? Mechanical wear and tear. Transmission problems, suspension issues, and worn-out braking systems are common on retired rental cars. And while traditional vehicles might offer clear signs of these issues, EVs can be trickier to evaluate. Many of Hertz's electric cars, particularly Teslas, had suffered from battery degradation, an issue that isn't always visible during a short test drive. Battery health is critical. A degraded EV battery can slash at a car's range and render it nearly unusable for long trips. But unless buyers know how to check battery stats, often buried in the vehicle's system settings, they may not catch the problem until it's too late. One buyer reported that his deal Tesla had a battery health of just 82% after only 25,000 miles, reducing the car's range by nearly 70 miles. Replacement? Upwards of $12,000. Then there are the cosmetic issues. Hertz's rush to sell meant little time for proper detailing, inspections, or repairs. Cars with dents, scuffs, damaged interiors, or missing parts made their way onto lots and online listings. Some had accident histories. Others had been hastily repaired. One man discovered that his vehicle, a Ford Explorer, had a severely compromised suspension due to a previous crash that wasn't disclosed during the sale. A woman who bought a Camry from Hertz later found that its electrical system had been jury-rigged post-rental and began malfunctioning within weeks. And while Hertz claims to offer vehicle history reports, many buyers have noted discrepancies or missing information. Some vehicles were sold as is, with little to no warranty, meaning all repair costs fell squarely on the buyer. The dangers weren't just mechanical. Financial risks also lurked in the form of insurance complications. Rental cars are statistically more likely to have been driven aggressively, and insurers know it. Many buyers reported that premiums for their Hertz liquidation cars were 10-15% higher than comparable privately owned vehicles. For some, that made monthly payments untenable. And finally, let's not forget the reality of silent damage. EVs, especially Teslas, rely heavily on software and internal diagnostics. These systems can be tampered with, reset, or even malfunction after years of heavy fleet use. Some buyers learned too late that certain sensors or modules were no longer working, costing thousands to replace, and rendering key features like autopilot unusable. The bottom line is this: not every Hertz car is a bad deal, but many come with risks buyers never anticipated. The smart shoppers were the ones who came prepared, armed with knowledge, willing to bring mechanics to inspections, and skeptical of deals that looked too good to be true. In the next section, we'll expose another overlooked danger: how Hertz's financing deals turned out to be traps for the unsuspecting, costing buyers thousands more than they ever planned to spend. Just because the price tag says deal doesn't mean your wallet is safe. As thousands of buyers rushed to scoop up Hertz's liquidation vehicles, another problem quietly surfaced: financing. For many, the true cost of their bargain didn't reveal itself until after the paperwork was signed. Hertz, eager to simplify the process and move vehicles quickly, promoted its in-house financing options heavily. To the average consumer, it sounded perfect. Buy the car directly, finance it through Hertz's recommended partner, and drive away the same day. But what many didn't realize is that these loans came with strings and high interest rates. While local credit unions and banks were offering rates as low as 4.5% to 5.5% for used vehicles, some Hertz-backed loans carried interest rates north of 7.5% or even 8%. On a $30,000 vehicle, that difference could mean paying thousands more in interest over the life of the loan. Worse still, some buyers didn't realize they could negotiate. Because Hertz made financing seem like part of the package, many customers skipped the usual shopping process for rates. In doing so, they lost out on better deals and the negotiating power that comes with pre-approval. Then came the insurance issue. As we covered earlier, rental vehicles are considered a higher risk by insurance companies. That means higher premiums. Buyers who didn't check insurance rates beforehand were blindsided. One man found himself stuck with a $320 monthly premium, nearly double what he expected, because his gently used Tesla had a rental history. Others faced issues with gap insurance. Some Hertz financed loans lacked clarity on whether they included coverage that would protect the buyer if the car were totaled. Without it, owners could be left on the hook for the remaining balance, even if the car was gone. And what about extended warranties? Many assumed these were included, or at least optional. But Hertz's liquidation strategy prioritized speed over service. For many buyers, There were no add-on protections available. If something broke, it was on them. There were also reports of administrative delays, titles taking weeks to transfer, registration hiccups, and paperwork errors that delayed insurance verification. In an era of digital convenience, the Hertz process felt clunky, rushed, and outdated. Still, not all was doom and gloom. Smart buyers found ways to protect themselves. The savviest ones secured financing from their credit unions before ever stepping foot on a Hertz lot. Others used online tools to pre-calculate insurance quotes based on the car's VIN. And a select few negotiated prices even further down once they found cosmetic flaws or service history gaps. The lesson here is clear. Just because a car is cheap doesn't mean it's affordable. Between high APRs, insurance premiums, and missing protections, many buyers ended up paying far more than expected. And in some cases, their bargain vehicle became a financial burden within months. Up next, we turn from buyers to workers because while some people scored discounts, others lost their jobs, livelihoods, and communities. The real cost of Hertz's collapse isn't just about money. It's about people. The ripple effects of Hertz's collapse aren't just measured in dollars. They're measured in jobs lost, communities shaken, and lives upended. While much of the public conversation has centered around cheap Teslas and bargain SUVs, there's another far grimmer story unfolding behind the scenes, the human cost of a corporate disaster. As Hertz accelerated its liquidation efforts and downsized its operations, it quietly began shuttering locations across the United States. From bustling urban centers to small rural towns, rental counters went dark, vehicle lots emptied, and closed signs were hung on doors that had remained open for decades. Entire branches were dissolved in a matter of weeks, and employees, many of whom had spent years, even decades with the company, were let go with little notice. For these workers, Hertz's crash wasn't a distant financial miscalculation. It was a personal catastrophe. Call center staff, lot attendants, managers, maintenance workers, and vehicle detailers suddenly found themselves unemployed in a job market already strained by inflation and rising costs of living. Severance packages, where they were offered, were often minimal. Some received nothing at all. In larger cities, displaced workers at least had the hope of finding similar employment. But in smaller towns where Hertz was a key employer, the collapse hit like an economic earthquake. Local businesses that relied on Hertz's traffic, nearby car washes, repair shops, gas stations, and cafes, immediately felt the absence. Foot traffic plummeted. In some cases, revenues dropped by double digits within weeks. Even more worrying were the once busy Hertz buildings themselves. Across the country, properties that used to serve hundreds of customers daily are now sitting vacant. Their parking lots, once filled with shiny rental cars, are now either completely empty or cluttered with a few leftover vehicles that failed to sell. In some communities, residents worry that these abandoned locations will become magnets for vandalism, break-ins, or worse. The sense of betrayal among former employees is palpable. Many believed in Hertz's comeback plan. They were told that the EV strategy would modernize the company and protect their jobs. But as mismanagement piled up and losses mounted, those same workers were the first to be sacrificed. Protests have erupted in cities like Orlando, Las Vegas, and Phoenix, where workers demanded fair severance, transparency, and accountability from Hertz leadership. In response, some local governments have stepped in. In areas where job losses were particularly concentrated, workforce development agencies are offering retraining programs, resume workshops, and job placement services. But these efforts, while commendable, can't fully erase the financial and emotional toll. For older employees nearing retirement, switching careers is no simple task. For single parents and hourly workers, the sudden loss of income is devastating. Advocacy groups have taken up the cause, calling for federal and state investigations into Hertz's business decisions. They argue that the company's aggressive shift toward EVs, its lack of financial transparency, and its abrupt closures should have triggered more oversight. Some are even pushing for changes to labor laws that would require corporations to give more notice or more compensation before mass layoffs. As Hertz tries to sell off what remains of its fleet and reconfigure its strategy, the communities it once operated in are left to pick up the pieces. In places like Springfield, Missouri, and Bakersfield, California, where Hertz had a strong presence, the closures have left visible scars. Longtime employees have turned to local media, sharing their stories and expressing anger at being cast aside by a company they once called home. The bottom line, this isn't just a business story. It's a story about people. Behind every car that disappears from a Hertz lot is a worker who lost their paycheck, a town that lost part of its economy, and a community left to deal with the fallout. The headlines may focus on Teslas and bargain sales, but the true cost of Hertz's failure is far more personal. And while workers mourn what they've lost, competitors are moving quickly to claim what Hertz left behind. In the next section, we'll explore how rival companies are adapting and whether they're learning from Hertz's missteps or simply waiting to repeat them. Hertz's collapse wasn't just a corporate misstep, it was a perfect storm of ambition, miscalculation, and market forces. What began as a bold leap into the future of transportation ended in liquidation lots, lawsuits, and thousands of lives disrupted. The company's bet on electric vehicles was daring, but it lacked the groundwork: real consumer demand, sustainable infrastructure, and long-term strategy. For buyers, it offered both opportunity and danger. Some walked away with unbeatable deals. Others were left grappling with hidden costs, mechanical nightmares, and financial regret. And for employees, communities, and competitors, the fallout is still being felt, from empty storefronts in small-town America to pricing chaos in global car markets. But beyond the headlines, this story is a cautionary tale for every industry standing at the crossroads of innovation and execution. It reminds us that bold ideas are only as strong as the planning behind them, and that in business, as in life, timing and humility matter just as much as vision. So as Hertz fades into the background of a rapidly evolving industry, one question remains: will the rest of the market learn from this spectacular failure? Or is this just the first domino to fall? Once again, thanks for watching this video. If you got something out of this, hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next one. And hey, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Agree, disagree, or something in between. I'd love to hear it.